So let's see. Give it a video media source. Yeah, local file. Let's see. Files. 3D target. Floating planet. That one. So, in the last few weeks, I've been pretty much obsessed with trying to get this simulation to look neat. If you're not familiar with it, that's a flip fluids that you can simulate using the flip fluids inbuilt into Blender, which is different from flip fluids if you were to use it as an add-on, which is paid if you want it pre-compiled or free if you want to compile it yourself. I have never figured out how to compile it myself because I'm pretty sure there's information missing. Anyways, I've got the paid version from a bundle a while ago, and I've been just trying to get this to look nice because the add-on doesn't have turbulence noise inbuilt into itself. So what I had to do is I had to make a big grid and make that grid via geometry nodes move, like turn each individual place plates on the grid, turn the plates individually based on the noise that is three-dimensional, and then increase and decrease the force based on some other values. And that's the turbulence noise I had to use because so I basically had to make it myself. And for the longest time, I didn't even know if it worked, and this finally proves to me that it did work. And so now I got distracted, or rather, I finally decided to stop spending another week. I didn't want to spend another week on doing this exact thing again, and so I've decided to do something entirely different. And that's what this is. Okay, so let's say we've got this room, a little bit square room. Here is the. Whoops, hold on, I forgot. Copy. Yep. So here is the basic idea. I want to use dynamic paint. Ooh, why is it looking like that? Okay, this would be the canvas, and there. This would, make it look pretty detailed. Let's see. Wait. Give it the give it that, and then have a little contact with a brush. Now I'm gonna shake and wake paint. I didn't do anything so far. Let's see. Maybe it is. Yeah, okay, no. The issue is I need paint for these effects. Let's make it spread. Okay. And that means this is not working anymore. So, okay, I need a... I'm just getting myself familiar with the stuff. Input, attribute, need to add that. Click, click. Why is it not? Okay. And I need to... I pressed the render button. Then there's now frozen. Shouldn't be doing that. Should be doing a whole lot of the opposite. Yeah, no, I can't move this. Nothing happening. Okay. Ah, okay. Yes, this. Okay. So that's the point where it contacts, and because of spread, over time it's gonna, you know, spread. But this looks bad. So here's okay, let's just compare these two. Yeah, that and that. That is wet, so wet's wet, not yet dried, which is a whole separate thing. If I were to let it run, I think it may as well. No, I don't. May also not. Okay, anyways. So like this doesn't look good. So what I generally like to do is take noise. Subtract it. And then one. Or was it this? Yeah, it's this. Okay, yeah, that's a bit smoother, and that's why this works. This basically can make it look more biological. Checking. Increase the detail. It's visible, you know. Good. Yeah. I can hide this. It doesn't look very flat like. Let's try some other noises. Oh, I like the sharper corners and stuff. That's also something. Okay. Hybrid. Yeah, that's one of the super harsh noises. Let's not do that one. Yeah, that's why we were at. Oh, that's also something. So this is definitely for like good for wormy stuff. Let's take both. And that looks good. Back up to that point. Let's check. I think we'd like. I want it super slow. That's too fast. That's still too fast. I want it to be really, really, really slow. Okay. Okay. Now let's check. Doesn't seem to be going over the limit, except for in the very corner. You can barely see it. I can barely see it. And it vanishes on denoising. But there are some black pixels and lines that are like these, but you know, smaller. If I claim the result, it should vanish, but nope, nope, doesn't. Anyways, let's see, how's this? Yep. Giving it another go. Okay. That's what I want. That's slow bubbling. Okay. Now I'm just experimenting with some surfaces I'd like to use. One of them is definitely going to be based on Voronoi. Oh, I also completely... I was starting to make scales already and I didn't even have these set object. Hold on, let me redo that. That's probably gonna cause this, that. Yeah, it's okay, that's more like it. Now let's go check this. I'm guessing smooth and it's gonna be for my little Trypophobia homies right here. I'm gonna yeah, that's really getting my PC to shug. Maybe because I was still playing the animation for some reason. uh, okay. I think I'm gonna need to have a map range node. Just to keep it. There. I want this to be a little rough too, but that's gonna come later. I've got that really bad, like sneezing but not really. You know, needing to sneeze and but not really thing. So I use this instead. Another thing I don't like to do. Let's go on here. Color mix. And grab, yeah. This, separate from that, FBM. And, you know, mix 0.5, 0.25. Yeah. So we've got that. We've got that. I'm gonna save this now. One of these is gonna have one type of color, the other is gonna have another type of color. I can actually start on that now. Mix. Where's the, there it is. So using this, I can just say green, blue, red, and whatever intensity I want. But I'm gonna want different colors for different areas. So I'm gonna say, let's make a kind of weird yellow, let's make a dark green. And then I'm gonna put a big noise on that. Let's grab it from, oh yeah, small. For visualization, I'm gonna use this contrast. Really hammer it up there. where you can see that's the pattern. And thinking, yeah. So, you know, in the final render, which is gonna not happen on the stream, what I would do is I would then go to the shader, principled, have a color from somewhere else, and this is gonna mix in. Okay, yeah, wait, no, let's see, let's go do it this way. I'm gonna have this, then I'm gonna have vector bump this, take the height, plug it in, then sun is way too strong on this one, for normal stuff. See this? You may be noticing something missing. How's this looking? It looks good. How's this looking? What the fuck? Seem to be changing anything. So I am in cycles. Okay. How does the preview look down here? Black. How does it look now? That way. If I plug this in, black. Okay, I'm gonna do a quick restart just to check. Like off Blender, not the whole stream. Just gonna restart Blender. Yeah, what? Okay. Cube. Simple noise. Nothing in it. Plug it into React. No, I'm seeing it. It's doing a thing. Plugging this into it. Increasing the strength. Okay, so it's just subtle. A lot more. Why is this distance as 0.01? Okay, no, I think I've some with Blender. There, okay. Something has set this value to 0.001, which is, of course, extremely weak, and that caused these issues. So just looking at this preview here, doesn't look very good at this moment. But, yeah, there we go. You know, it is working. Okay. Yeah, but as you can see, you know, doing this midstream is not gonna be very viable. So if I just work with the colors here, let's pretend this is what's called a shader mix node, like here, mix shader. Let's pretend it's this node I'm using here. What I would do is then I would take this, which is, you know, where the thing has an effect, plug it in here, and then we would have there we go. You know, we would have the basic room texture, whatever the room's looking like, and wherever the quote-unquote infection has spread, it would then switch over to this thing. That is the basic idea. Okay, so, however, all of this, it's gonna vanish, because all of this is just, you know, basically pre-stream messing around for the main attraction, which is making the spread of this look good. So, little recap. We had a dynamic paint to the box. Set a canvas up, and we added a cube, which is a brush, also with dynamic paint. And that touched this, and by setting the canvas to vertex and the surface to paint, we get our effects like spread, drip, and shrink. Let's use drip first. An acceleration of 1. As you can see, it drips. You know, then it pools down here and spreads down here a lot more. I think I want a little bit of that. Acceleration, let's check that out. What if I disable drip? No. Huh. You know, the thing I've noticed about Blender is surface velocity. I see, okay. Here, I got a little tooltip that told me why this wasn't working as expected. How much surface velocity affects dripping. So if I were to grab this box and animate it moving around like this, that would affect dripping. That is why this wasn't working as I expected. Acceleration. How much surface acceleration affects dripping? Okay. So in here's where I can change what affects this. So the gravity is going to be a lot weaker now. I can also, if I don't want to mess with materials all the time, add turbulence and have that affect the whole thing. So this is like physically affecting how the spread works, how the drip works, using a turbulence in this case. So that is definitely interesting. I could also, which could be fun, add a vortex. Now it's just gonna be circling around this. Make a point and whoop. So that definitely looks interesting, but it's not really flood-like. Speaking of flood, how is this going? Perfect. So, I grabbed some Halo music. Let's keep it low and this in. Random. And have a little bit of Halo music in the background. If there's a VOD problem, I can always just re-upload without that, because I've got that separated, the audio tracks. So, another effect, let's see. Shrink is less interesting. you know, considering. That's not really what the flood is known for. This, I think, should affect dry areas. Dry is where it's not really, you know, interactive anymore. What if I don't have that? Let's just not have that. And I think it's like turbulence could be interesting. Let's take a look at this again. Yeah, doesn't that look nice and infectious? I'd like the border to be slightly different. Let's check the paint under this. Yeah, I can get a difference from that. Let's look at the cube. I think the cube is where that is. Yes, here I can have a color. If I set this to be white, first it's gonna spread just like that, but then it's gonna be everywhere, and I can then subtract like that. And now I've got this, which I can then use over in this area. Yeah, here. First grab this, reroute, just so everything is that's about to move is gonna move correctly. I'm gonna be staying over here. Grab this, and this is why this is a little bit annoying to work with. If I use textures, I would have to UV unwrap everything and just give everything a make everything look nice and save images and all that. But keep it like this, it's all gonna stay in the same file. Anyways. This is what I don't want to see. Okay, now I can change this. To be a more bright yellow. Or some other color. give it this blue for now, just to keep it visual. I really don't want these kind of diagonals to appear. That looks good. How far is it from not having it? Pretty far. That looks good. You know, that's not noticeable anymore. So it's gonna be normal here, and over here I'm gonna make it red. It misses like that. And from all the way over here, I'm gonna be grabbing this. Whoops. There. Maybe give it a multiplier like that. That's just gonna be a little indicator of how things are going. You know, let's say it's some kind of super active metabolism fungus thing. Legally distinct floating organism that's doing this. Shading. I'm gonna move back to just using this at most. Possibly even just this, or even this. Let's go with that. Gives the best impression without breaking the bank computationally. So, now I've got this paint map. What I am at the moment not aware of is if I can use that in geometry nodes in any way. A lot of things simply do not cross the gap. And that is a problem, because I want them over there. But let's see. Oh. That is... I'd love to see it. I've got it right here. Right here. This means I can now move this and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So I can also even just go over to the material and copy like most of the stuff, possibly even all of it. Actually, let's grab it and exclude this, copy. Yeah, a bunch of stuff doesn't quite work, but lots of stuff does. Like, for example, the positions and stuff like that. That's not really the purview of this. Let's change this to shade editor. Okay, and just, you know, look around, fix what's in need of fixing. There, we've got, you know, it's based on the grid, so if I increase the resolution there, we've got this. Because it's not a shader, it's not based on the surface, but on the grid and the amount of vertices you get. Okay, so this already works pretty well on its own because it's just cool like that. I basically only need this to work again. Hold on, that's wet map, yeah, okay. So we've got a little something right there. Page map. Click. Okay. Anything? That needs it. Okay. Why do we even use this over here? Just always the same thing. Yep, with all of those. Because this is kind of distant, I'm gonna move it over here. A copy, I mean. Copy it over there. Bump is not a factor here. At least not in the same way. Where does multiply go? It goes into the liked. Okay. Yeah, no, that's about it. The only thing missing is, you know... It's a lot slower. But it's right here on the, you know, on the mesh. I think I'd like to bake this. Let's bake the spread of the map itself. It's gonna be slow as fuck when I have this active, so let's not have that active. I see. Because it's basically trying to keep it all going. And now I can reactivate it and just scroll. Again, because the resolution is based on the vertices, I would need to increase this to a degree that's unhealthy to properly see it. And oops, yeah, that's because it's baked on this resolution, you know, see the dynamic range is above that. I can't just change this. It's probably even here is too much. So again, it shouldn't affect that, but it does a little bit. It's just a safety thing, I think. Oh no, it was because I didn't have the geometry nodes selected anymore. Apparently. It's hanging again. There we go. See, that's a lot more detailed again. But still... Anyways, that's not what's gonna be visible. What's gonna be visible is what I'm about to do. So let's... Okay. I'm gonna remove most of this again. Just gonna see that has the most clean bump for me to use. I'm not gonna be needing any of these colors, you know? That looks good. So, if I take this, add that, this is just noise, right? Ah, okay. So I would then multiply to create some noises over here. Let's see. Let's leave that out for now. Just this. Okay. So, remove that and set position. So I definitely not want this to be like that. So, can I? This is not gonna work, I know that. But I can, I think again, somehow, I don't remember where I did it. So, oh, that's not it. But, oh yeah. Let's take a look. It would be in vector. No. No. If so I think I can get the normal here. Blur that. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna also blur this. What happens if I blur her position? Okay. Does it grow? No, it just stays. Mm. I can plug it into the selection here. And that is yeah, that is the actual size of this. That is not what I like. I need Let's look this up for a little bit. How to display like this in geometry nodes? I assume there's pictures. There's pictures. You need a really dense mesh to, then it's a matter of combining, plugging that. Okay, wait. Okay, here's maybe an actual answer. Playing with scale and detail levels with a load curve color around to raise the contrast of a bigger carving for mesh to the offset set node socket of a set position node. That is. Hold on, no, maybe I can. If I get. Okay, yeah, this is a position. So like it takes in this. Like this is this is this. So if I have two variants of this, and one of them is changed by this, then I've got it. I can just yeah, it looks more like it. I can now divide. Yeah, that's it. No, wait, that's it. No, wait, that's the same thing again, I think. Yeah, no, that's the same thing again. Almost. What makes this incorrect? Because, you know, the room is this side, it grows immensely. Is it because I'm adding the offset? If I take this though, if I do this though, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna yell at me because I'm not gonna not do anything. Uh-huh. No, that's adding. Because it's adding, because it's going up here, and that's going into the room. I want it to be constant based on the direction it already has. So, you know, this is basically the same thing again. That. Let's keep it this extreme, just to have it to work with. Let's take another look. You need to do that. Let's see. Add surface detail geometry nodes. There's a Blender tutorial. Let's see. Tutorial or time-lapse? Tutorial or time-lapse?
In this Blender tutorial, I'll show you how to add surface detail to your objects using geometry nodes. So in this video, I'll show you how to create a custom key to go to the search, and I'm going to add the sub. If I turn the factor up more and more, it is going to use more of color B. Color B is the noise texture, and so we can now drag the factor around to control.
It's doing the same thing again.
Noise texture. And if the linear light was changed to mix, now if I drag this around, you can see it's offsetting in a weird angle.
It's exactly the same thing.
I also want to be able to control the subsurf level, so let's take the level and put that into the extra socket.
Like it's just doing it a little more carefully. take a look at these nodes. What's that? Nope. Display seems to follow a specific angle and not going to the center of the volume. Yeah, that is the problem. If you're going to replicate the displacement you got from shader, no, you might want to displace the mesh in its normal direction, like so. That's specifically what I want to do. Okay. Scale! Scale! Scale, scale, scale. Give me that. Bam. Oof. E. Is that it? Did I? No. 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 Hold on. Strength adjustment. Multiply negative. Oh, yeah. Okay. I need a. Okay. Okay. And no. That's nope. It's still. It's not based on the surface normal. It's just based on. Okay, hold on. Normal. Right there. Okay, no. Instead of position here, I need normal. We've got it. Okay. Now, because of how this is, I'm gonna blur that. Come on, shade smooth. Then smooth by angle. It's gonna be another geometry nodes thing. And what if I... Okay, do I have a ring still? That would be up here, yeah. So if I take this and plug that into the rake of the blur, it's gonna create spikes everywhere and mess everything up. If I clamp it, it doesn't. Okay. Okay. Now, let's take a single picture using this full thing and from the inside. Okay. Let's call it POV. Your pronouns about to change into us and all. You know, because of Hivemans and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, I knew. I'm normally using another Blender version, which doesn't have this setup. Like that. So now it's gonna be trying to render a single frame of the whole screen, which is a little much for my little weak graphics card. And that's gonna be annoying. Can't really effectively stop that either. Oh. Just a little scrap, please. Yeah, that's gonna take some time. Now, another thing I can do, you having all of that in geometry nodes, is I can transfer that over to vertex weights, which I can then use with particle systems. And those can then be used to place stuff like tendrils and eyeballs and all of that. I can make them like grow from surfaces. I'm just not sure how it's gonna work, considering it's gonna be random, like, whoops. I don't know, that's killing me. Like, it's gonna, it has its own noise. And that noise may mess things up if it's changing dynamically. And that's always fun, quote-unquote, to figure out. Because what I've done right now with geometry nodes, I can also just do, if I select this, go over here, this little setting. I didn't need to do all that for this. But it's just useful to have it also in geometry nodes and elsewhere, because then you can cross some boundaries you wouldn't be able to otherwise. That's basically why. Hmm. There's no undo. I'm just checking another channel right now. Apparently there's no undo in the balloons map creator. It's weird. Cannot wait for the day where Blender doesn't have dependency cycles and instead just has cause and effect. Like, oh man, a bunch of water was poured into this glass at high speeds. What does happen? The glass tips over, spills the water on something else. Oh man, all this water which was spilled happened to fall onto a pile of sand. perfectly piled up in like a little pyramid or a hill thing. It gets wet, drenches the sand. Instead, you know, absolutely none of that happens unless you've got some research paper stuff, 2-minute paper, or, made it yourself, or did all of that manually, which is really annoying, because I wanna. Even just having sand pile up is incredibly annoying. And the fucking the molecular particles add-on keeps being remade for every other new version of Blender by a different person. And they all, each and every one of them, has to just change the interface around completely. Like, missing half the features, but you have to have this interface change. It has to look different. This button has to be somewhere else now. This button has to do something else now. And it's... Let's see, what version am I on? Let's see if I can get molecular for that. Ooh. Dang, Firefox, that's small. 4.5.2. Let's see if we've got one for this version. It just gives me the page for add-ons itself. A market for add-ons, another page for add-ons themselves, another market for add-ons, the same actually as before. Okay, what if I put molecular particles into quotes? Absolutely nothing. Molecular just in quotes? Something in Chinese. Okay, what if I say molecular plus? That's one of the remakes I know about. Okay, nothing in quotes. That's just even less things also in Chinese somehow. What? Molecular nodes? Molecular Plus for Blender 3.0 and 4.1 Plus. Okay. Let's see. Got a GitHub here. Originally based on that, and the efforts of that to make it compatible with that. More info on his website and check my GitHub. Molecular Plus releases. Let's see. We've got latest in 2024. Oh goody. Originally made that. Let's see. I've got a website. Is the website? Website is not HTTPS. Okay, let's say that's just. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's not really any pull requests. None. A lot of them closed though. For 4.2 support, closed because closing, revisit when I have time to work on this again. Oh no. Contributions this last year stopped completely in April. Yeah, no, that's not good. I can try installing it. Actually, maybe I do have it already installed. I didn't check. Do I have it? No, doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. So I've got Files, 3D add-ons. Oh, I do have it already downloaded though. Is that ready to... Yep. It's ready to be installed on whatever version could. I'm noticing I've had some spillover, some bumping. That's not supposed to happen right now. That's not good. So definitely want this to be a wider margin so that I can apply more noises to it. Like now it looks very, you know, early 2000s 3D animation. Lucky Not Plus, we've got it right here in the add-ons list. Does it... It turns on. Okay. I already know this is gonna look like ass when it's finished, but you know... 86%. So, you know... It's gonna look like ass, but complete at least. Man. 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 Ooh. Ooh. Not smooth enough. No, it's not completely the issue, it's just, you know, part of it. Again, this little sliver is gonna be a lot faster. Let's see if there's something else popping up and denoising. Can always happen, you know, getting some... Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. Okay. Just one. Problem is it looks deceptively smooth here, but it clearly isn't. So... It's gonna not be much of a factor. Now that I'm gonna take this and blur the hell out of it. Like really, really blurred. Okay. Then that and hmm. I want this to be smooth transition. That's why I'm doing this. Could work. Okay. Now let's disable all that again. I wanna try. This is gonna mess things up. Let us see how it's gonna mess things up. I'm gonna potentially switch over to textures if it messes this up a lot. So simulate, no, delete. Give it a scratch. With a lot more speed. Not sure if it's slower now because I've maybe doubled or tripled the amount of vertices, or if it's slower because I forgot to disable something. Could be both. Just gonna leave it for that at that for now. Shading. Hit me with that. Yep. Maybe it's a completely different resolution. Right here. And it's stretched like that. It's partially why I would really rather have these attributes blurred. It's not gonna need to go any further than this anyways. Now if it will look good already, what I could do is the camera, a little flashlight right here. Nope. And then let's it would look like this. I forgot that I did that. Should have just done a view preview. I mean, it definitely doesn't look like something you would want to walk into. That's for sure. Anyways, it's time to look at some references. Now, comedy and well, slot concept art. That's just the units I want in the map. Slot map concept art. I really want to look at the surface materials. I've got something on the Halopedia, and it actually lets me look at it. So yeah, we are definitely seeing some biological copy No objects to paste. I beg your pardon. Copy image. Cool. Man, I love it. By the way, this is what I would do if I were to use textures here. It's not the best, but if I were to not want to spend hours on this, this is how I would do it. And this would also give it an equal, you know, resolution for everything. Let's take a look, yeah. Yeah, no overlap from what I'm seeing. That's about how it would work. Anyways, I've got an image right here. Copy image. Add empty image. That's I definitely know it worked somehow. Okay, hold on. Paste image. It's gonna be a $20 add-on somewhere, isn't it? Simple render, I wanna grab images from a clipboard, paste it to reference images. It really shouldn't need to be an image. And not on, I mean. Okay, hold on. Maybe it's involved. Nope. Grabbing another add-on. Install from disk. Install. Okay. That should work. No object to paste. What's this thing? What's this? That's just PNT, yeah, there it is. It's all about the little things, you know? It's the little things that end up being... I guess that's why it's called the straw that broke their camel's back and not the cinder block that previously glanced off. I do know. I am perfectly aware that I can just drag it in once I've saved the image and show you this is what I've been looking at all this time. However, I am a firm believer But why the fuck should I need to do that? And I've got a perfectly fine copy and paste shortcut. It has worked for so many internal things, a bunch of external things as well. Why does it not work for this? Anyways. So, this is the map I looked at when I had the idea of making something like this. Like, this is not the exact image, but they all kind of look like this. Just goop. Goop with webs. Goop with meat. And all that. Probably all 4K textures. 3 of them. And, So let's make a test plane. I'm gonna be having that image right here. And look at this. First, let's make something like these tendrils here. That's gonna be a what was it again? And just use this. So, yeah. What was this again? Oh, that's it. It does kind of look like that's it. Like if I make it look 2D, it's even gonna look good. Because I don't have to deal with all the flat surfaces. Here's an issue with this one. If I do that, it's gonna look like that. So I would have to do one like that. I can import triplanar mapping node from another project, bake the texture, and then use that, but I really hate baking textures. I would say this kind of issue is probably why procedural textures are not in every game ever, and we instead have 300 gigabytes Call of Duty. Because for so many things you would have to either completely UV unwrap in very specific ways and have a solution for surfaces that are on the mesh very close but on the UV map very far apart. And that's, difficult. Starting to notice my mic cable is a little twisted. Okay. Here's a completely wrong one. Okay. Let's not get distracted. So it's crazy how much all of this reminds me of Spore. Here's the thing I like doing. Layering biomes like this. Now I have 4 potential spots to plug into any kind of texture and just go from there. Let's see. Whatever. You know, I can just reuse this wherever I want. And for example, have parts of the map be like this. But only kinda. Could also plug in this. Try to be a lot more delineated. Let's put it up to 8. And make another surface. Seems good. Oh. Lyrics stuff, that's probably bad to use. I can't leave it like that. 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And just you know, very simple ways of making it like that. Then puddles. Let's maybe go for puddles. Gonna do a pro gamer move. And the last one. Anything? Do we even have 4 things? This is a B. So I can make a. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take this, plug it in here. Okay. Now, somewhere a developer working on Blender updates is extremely mad that I'm using this node incorrectly because it has been turned into something that's called a legacy. Which I'm generally saying, I knew that was of me. No, it's gonna be more. Ugh. Oh, it's only color. Yeah, okay. Not a lot of that around, eh? This is the puddle, okay. It's gonna be this green. Hmm. Just remembered that I, need all these clean like that as well for later. Okay, that's the correct stone like that. Yellow cracked bile. Hello, Cobbler. What's up? I'm just slowly chipping away at making material here that's actually good, based on what the previous people, what the people made for the games and stuff like that. That's the wrong way around. And how's that? That's a resounding meh. Okay. Now, all these. Yeah, let's plug it into a principled principle. There. Oof. Let's give this another treatment. Displacement. I'm gonna go with the Geo Classic. Yep, I can see her. I can see you. Not really used to having people around. Usually I just have them here so I can instantly... Ah, okay. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I also have my own connection issues a lot of the time. Which is really convenient for streaming. You know, you love to see it. Ooh. Ah, okay. I wouldn't say it looks good yet. It's really rough in a lot of places. Oh, it's because I'm mixing materials and displacement here. If what I could do is I could just, you know, use the puddle value here and displace based on that. That's true, but right now my biggest struggle is making this look good. Like if you compare the reference here and what I've got right myself, there's a lot more issues than just the order of things being incorrect. What's that crown, by the way? Oh. Okay. I think I want this to look more organic. Maybe I had... Okay. But yes, that is normally how it would be done. Like, it's just also another problem where different areas don't really cross. Like, I can't just take a material and make it geometry, and I can't take geometry and make it material. And I'd also... Like, I'd rather have this be real and incorrect on this view for now, and have it be fake and accurate. But yes, if I wanted to do that, what I can do is I can go to displacement here, and this is the puddle. Just take this value here, put that into the displacement, And I can completely remove all of these then. And displacement only for now. And I can make it do something like this. And then it will be accurate to the puddles. But once I leave render it view, it's just a flat plane and I want to simulate on this later on and have it be accurate to geometry or stuff. I want it to be like an infectious surface sprawling thing. And then I can't really... I was wondering what's up with that. Okay. Vector. Okay. So I noticed an issue here. Then I need to take care of that. Yeah, it's because of this. Okay, let's go in again and just move that. And instead, ping pong, everyone. It's gonna look a lot more weird and it's not really gonna be useful for terrain, but like I said earlier, it's not really my intention to have this be terrain. Can also make it a little less sensitive to that. Okay, but yeah, let's turn all this. Oh, okay. Ah, no, because this crunches it down. Yeah, okay, no, I need to have that afterwards. My mistake. Once again, my mistake. Thanks. It's all trial and error. And at some point, even success. Takes time though. If you find a good teacher, you can probably even learn fast, but there's a shortage on teaching. Hold on, where does this get its patterns? Gets it from over here. This is what gives it that. Okay. Here's always a fun thing. Scale this thing down and see how detailed it is at a lower distance. Oh, I did. Minimap. While I'm in this mode, I probably want it to be fast and all. There's a lot of flat green here. That flat green is that. Yeah, it's supposed to be a little bit different. It's this? Okay. Whoop. Is it that bright anyways? Okay. Definitely looks more flood-like now. One of these is there. Okay. Thinking about doing sub noises, like darken this over here. Using another noise, that's just... Increase this a little. And this as well. Other way around. That's more like it. Yeah. My big issue with the puddle thing is, let's see, I can not really differentiate this puddle from this puddle. So if I were to try adding dry sections, it would potentially cut across like this, the way I'm doing it right now. So I'm keeping those kind of details out of it for now. I wanted to show something really cool that doesn't need any of that. But I figured out a long time ago. If I had an empty, like this is a reference point I can add, and I just select that. So now if I move this, that's where this displacement type originates from. I've already set it so that it can't just go into any direction. It just goes up or down, and that's it. So if I now select that and copy it, each of these is still all based on this position. It's not on the current position of the vertex, so it doesn't change like that. It's all based on this. Creates a lot more dynamic terrain, in my opinion. And that's not the cool part. Let's say you want a canyon. scale 0.2 that scale 0.2 that. Okay. I accidentally pressed the wrong. I didn't press point, I pressed minus. And now you've got kind of canyon-like things. Oops. Hold on, it's more obvious if I increase the strength. I kind of see it forming, like terraces and stuff like that. Canyon. Let's see how it looks with whoa. That's kind of gnarly. Because of how I made this whole thing, it doesn't quite work so well with it. I set this to 3D. This. Nope. Still not. Because that's also based on a reference point. So I set this to be the same. Nope, doesn't change much. Is it because of the internal thing here? Possibly. The true horror lies down here. Okay, so that's... Oh, no. Oop. Oof. May have overdone it a little bit. Now that's a spicy lasagna. Been in the oven a few weeks, I would say. Not cooked, but consumed all the same. The true Gravemind is the spicy chicken we left in the oven for 3 weeks in a row. Everything else is just, you know, some kind of weird fungus. Nothing to worry about. It's kinda messy. And because I've done that, I now need to rescale a lot of things. Okay, let's take a look. That's... yeah. This still needs some downscale. There we go. Or I just need to rescale that one thing. Nope, I still need to rescale a lot of things. Funny. Oh, but duplication. I can show that real quick. Make a new collection here. So, get a displacement, get the same texture. Actually, let's make a new texture to completely show it. So I made this texture, make that a cloud in the texture menu down here, and set the scale pretty high. Then let's leave it like that for now. So I changed the direction. No, let's leave that for now. Change that to object. Let's make it like I did before. This is now based on this. Yeah. So normally what you would do is you would just scale this up. And then you got a bigger noise. Or a smaller one. But if you do that, you just get, you know, the same kind of surface. I'm gonna add a subdivision modifier. You know, it's gonna look like this. But also generally, if you just duplicate, it's gonna do this, because it's gonna spread out in all directions. That is why in the direction menu, the direction setting, you set it to Z, so it's only gonna move up and down. Anyways, so you duplicate that, and instead of just moving up and down, it's gonna add the effect of the movement on top of the previous effect of the movement. The displacement is gonna be added onto itself, it's gonna be stacked. And that is what creates these kind of sheer cliff faces. These are not gonna look good normally. I've got a little system here where I go down to in the texture to the color ramp and type times 1.6, copy that, and then just paste it in and add another node, paste it in, copy, add another node, paste it in, another node, paste it in, another node, and then just set that to B-spline, which smooths all that out. Then remove all displacement except for one, set the mid-level to 0. If you do that, what you instead get is, you know, these sheer cliff faces. Where if you compare that, it's just gonna have the same spikes that smoothly, well, relatively smoothly move up. You know, these kinds of slopes. It looks best when doing it on low scales, I found. Which at some point way down, depending on how low the scale is, starts adding terraces. Like you would see on the Grand Canyon. I'm gonna erase. Okay. So let's say strength 24. That makes this kind of displacement. Let's see how, when that reaches the terrace state. Oh no, I forgot. Another important step is to have the thing that it's basing its coordinates on, scale it on the z-axis down to like 0.1 or 0.2 or something. Yes, okay. It wasn't doing the thing, I was wondering, why wasn't it doing the thing? But yeah, no, I completely forgot that step. That's really important. So let's set that back to strength of 8. And copy. There we go, see? Now it's making canyon-like terraces. And all of this roughness can be smoothed out on a later stage. Just on the z-axis, and just move it one up, and you still get the details. And then subdivision 1, 2, but also there. See, this is what it does. And if you go to the noise itself and just the depth, if you set it to 0, you can see even clearer what it does exactly. It's literally just, you know, if you look over here, if you dang, it's not visible, eh? Or the preview doesn't seem to be showing the effect. But yeah, like this little bump, if we just had one displacement, actually let me remove all of this stuff again. So if you just have this, we have these bumps, you know, and if we add them again, it's gonna add these bumps relative to where this is. Can't see it here. See this here? It's basically a fake octave I gave it. Well, it's a real octave, but it's a different kind of octave. When you add detail to a noise, like the depth here, it basically does the same thing, but based on, you know, the initial position. Not iterating on the previous position. This iterates on the previous position, and that iteration is what creates these kind of patterns and the terraces, because it's, you know, changing over the height itself. And just by the sheer fact of how that math works, it creates sheer cliff faces, terraces, weird patterns like these. Whoops. That is how that works. And it's really fun to play with. And if you are not careful and subdivide too much, really quick to crash your computer. Because of how fun it is to play with. Like, this doesn't crash your computer. This, the subdivision, that crashes your computer. Because each number basically doubles the detail. And now, if you just increase the actual octave, as it would use in the program, you can see exponential detail, basically. Now there's a fun spot. Hold on. Look at this spot. See this little ring that's formed? As I increase the detail here. It turns almost into natural castle wall formation. On this hole here, where there's not a lot of detail because it didn't initially get much in terms of displacement. It's gonna mostly stay like that. But it's gonna form these rings around everywhere, and you know, it's just really, really, really fun. Like, you couldn't imagine an RTS taking place on this landscape, right? Or an RPG or anything. Smooth it out. And yeah, for subdivision. I don't even know how much RAM I have. I switched to Linux, and since then I didn't have any way. I couldn't find any way to check my current RAM use. So it could be at like 40 gigabytes. You know, this whole thing, it feels like 40 gigabytes, the way I'm moving around right now. Definitely wouldn't be good if that's the case. Yeah, I'm expecting this music to go into a... what's Gorillaz White Flag. Oh, another really fun thing. You still have this empty here, this position, this reference point. and you can just still move it around. It's best shown when I've got low detail. Doesn't this look cool? Another cool thing. You can make like dunes and stuff. Just rotating on one axis. That's another thing I've done a little while ago. Make this 0.5 and this 2. So you've got these kind of patterns. Now let's remove all but one of them. Copy this and switch it up. That's 0.5 and that's 2. And then, that's a little bit complicated, you know, duplicate, move down. Duplicate that one, move that down. Or duplicate, down, duplicate, down, duplicate, down, duplicate, down, duplicate, down. Same effect, just a little different, and it creates these really interesting patterns. And if you then switch these up, it even looks kind of natural. Now you've got this kind of geology. Yeah, right? That's a lot of fun to be had in with kind of thing. Wasn't I doing something? That definitely shouldn't have been possible about a finger like that. I've got a crazy stream delay on, by the way. It's like maybe a good minute, I think. Yeah, this also. Just imagine trying to wander around these kind of areas. Thanks. No, it's hanging again. Maybe I should have chat on screen somehow, so that when I'm replying to something, it's clear that I'm what I'm replying to. Ooh, everything's frozen. Yep, everything's frozen. At least pretty slow. Oh. Wo wird dieser werden? Okay, so move this, that. Let's pop out the chat just so I can get that. link. Oh yeah, drivers can also be really fun to use for this kind of thing. Okay. How's this looking? Oh, it's good. Looks good enough. Mm. The thing about noises like these is, if we go again back down here and set this to 0, all these kinds of noises are like a random value on a curve that goes up and down, right? Like, you know, this is still pretty right, but this is basically what a noise is. It goes up and it goes down. And then you add detail by getting another noise that's slightly different. It's on a curve and goes up and down. And you lay it on like this. And you get... Whoop. Okay. Stop. Stop. Hide that for now. Okay. So, are you familiar with Fourier? Fourier analysis and other terms like that? Using layered noises to create specific images based on just drawing a line on a graph. That's kind of what's happening here, except, you know, I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I have a pretty good idea because of my experimenting. It's gonna look like some canyon kind of stuff. And using drivers, you can also do similar things, like get this. Click. Whoop. You know, you've got this arrow. Let's make it move. Sine wave time. Now it's moving every 32 frames-ish up and down. Slightly different because of sine waves and all of that, but that's what it does. What I can do, make another one move up and down at 24 frames. Now it goes up a little bit higher, goes down, but these two influence each other. So, you know, up, down, half, up one, down, down, whoop, 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 whoop. You see how it's kind of Has a little bit more twang to it, like it's bouncing. Okay. And then I can add it up again and say cosine. And that's gonna again change how things work. Up, down. That's kind of how these kind of patterns emerge at some point. Just layering noises on top of each other slowly, bit by bit. And the chat is broken. There. And if you just translate what I just showed you onto this, you can see how it's, because it's layered on top of each other, it's creating higher and lower points. And because of how it works, normally you would have different maximum and minimum points, but layering the noise on top of each other, it's gonna, cause this. It's also interesting. This reminds me of yeah, the values. You mean like the height of these empties, for example? Yeah, that's an option, of course. Why is that YouTube chat thing constantly? Oh, okay. Now I see. It was just that initial message. That's what we actually are at. I see. This reminds me of Homeworld. Like if I do this. There's a few Homeworld maps which look like that, the prequel. I should real quick disable the subdivision and fine by me. Somebody is sawing something metal in half. Right outside my window. Doesn't seem to be audible when I'm not speaking, but Anyways. A big problem with using all of these techniques is you can't really make it performant easily. You would have to do all level of detail manually, like increasing